Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I am your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master Sun Qing, and I'm here with a very, very incredibly energetic, bubbly expression of just pure joy and happiness, which is really how everyone should be approaching their reality. Welcome, PMH.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh my goodness. You have this incredible story that sort of like spans in so many different directions. I would love you to share with the audience a little bit more about your exploration and how you got to where you are today, especially in the uh, deep dive and discovery of a near-death experience. Please share with the audience.
Oh, well, you're going back to my birth. You're going back to the time when hush, 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 because I was an illegitimate child at the time when that that was against the law.
Wow.
And my mother was punished, and I was raised by Norwegians in the reclaimed deserts of southern Idaho. Figure that one out. Song, SOGN from the Sognefjord.
Oh, wow.
We have raw fish for breakfast.
Well, how is that? Raw fish?
I didn't like it at all. Didn't like it at all. But in Twin Falls, Idaho, I'm an Idahoan, Western woman.
Wow.
And you have to bear in mind that when I was a child, everything was death. Death all over, everywhere. Death, death, death. Because it was World War II. It was, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And,
Wow.
and my little walk to school, it was about maybe 5-6 blocks. But in those days, those blocks were like a New York City block. So it was a long way. And in those days, if someone in your family died in the war effort, the government gave you a great big, huge gold star. And you put that star in your window. So my walk to school was a walk of death because there was so many gold stars.
Wow.
I remember this one house, walking by and seeing all these stars, and there were like, I don't know, 5 or 6 gold stars overnight. And I just stood there and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. I can't remember a single morning in all of first grade when I had to stop my shudders and tears to just walk in the door of my classroom. And then when I got in there, more problems or challenges, however you want to look at, because I was born with synesthesia. That is to say, the limbic system of the brain worked differently. So I could smell color, see music, and hear numbers.
So this is really fascinating because this is a diagnosis of how you are able to perceive reality, being able to see and smell things, and they're visual to you. Is this something that you still tap into today? Is it still present the same way it was?
So, that's my reality. And having died, yeah, it made it even more so.
And so when you look at things, you can see auras and colors and all this kind of weird stuff.
I can if I want to.
This
Normally, I just see the energy, and the energy flows.
And it's really interesting because I mean, I sort of like over my journey was given specific practices to acquire that sort of skill set, but to be born with it is really profound.
It's not so troublesome.
Yeah.
Yes, because in the 1st grade, the teacher kept trying to expel me. Finally, the principal wanted to kick me out of school in the 1st grade. Um, and my mother came in and fought for me. And thank you, mother, for all of that. And at the end of the at the end of the 1st grade, I decided that all adults were stupid, and I never wanted to be an adult when I grew up. So that
Wow.
was my great declaration at the age of 6. I never wanted to be an adult. They're stupid.
But well, they lose the fascination of life, in my opinion, you know?
Well, they lose truth.
Mm.
Um, yeah. And, and growing, finally married, had 3 children, um, made a lot of my children's clothes. Um, I made a lot of their toys and, did that by myself. Had a job, raised kids, had a big garden, practiced, that kind of gardening where you border your garden entirely with, uh, um, something like nasturtiums or that particular plant the that would guard and take care of your garden. And then inside, I would always leave about, uh, maybe about a fifth of the crop for the bugs, and then I could have the rest. And therefore, I never had any problem with illness or any problem with bugs at all. Um, I made everything I could, including my children's toys. I was a secretary at the time and taught Sunday school in church. Good Methodist. Yes, but for me, God was real. I mean, God was absolutely real in the sky and in the plants and in the rhubarb. Even made rhubarb pie. Oh yeah, yeah, yes, it was wonderful. Ah, and then there came a time, um, we left where we were and we became farmers, and the crops failed year after year, and we finally had to sell off everything we owned. And I remember forever that time when the 5 of us, 3 kids and mom and dad, were you watch your life go by because everything you own is sold off and your life disappears. It's gone. So we moved to Boise, Idaho, the capital of Idaho. We were then in Twin Falls. I tell everybody, born in Twin Falls, died in Boise. So we moved to Boise, and were there. I was a secretary for a while, and worked for, um, this kind of firm where you're always working, hard and fast and hard and fast. You couldn't, um, you couldn't keep up. And finally, a, a, a lawyer a secretary for lawyers came to me and said, "You know, there's a detective who is collecting handwriting. He wants to be a handwriting expert, and he has all kinds of samples, but he doesn't have any samples of normal people. Could we please have a sample of your handwriting?" So I copied off some stuff in the front of the phone book, mailed it in, and you know, didn't hear anything for a month. And finally, I got this incredible handwriting. He could even tell the kind of food I love to eat, and accurately from my handwriting. I mean, this guy was good. And he kept saying, "You're in the wrong job. You should be a writer. You're in the wrong job. You should be a writer." And I thought, writer? I've never written anything in my life. What do you mean, writer? And so I went to the Bible, which I often do, just to open it. And there it was. For those who knock, the door is opened. I thought, okay. So I just started knocking at anybody I knew. "Do you know anything about writing?" And the third person I stopped on Main Street in Boise, Idaho, knew the name and the phone number of the president of the local writers group. And so I went there and I opened the door, and there were men and women of all ages, and they were happy and they were creative, and they had a lot of spunk. And I looked at that and I thought, "Oh, I want to be one of you people. I want to be just like you are." So I said, "How do I do it?" And they said, "Well, you write 3 works. We judge whether or not you're a writer, and then you're in." So laboriously, I wrote my 3 works, submitted them. I'll never forget that day when we all met. And this guy who writes professionally for the Saturday Evening Post said, "We have a natural born writer. I vote her in." And it's like, whoa, whoa. In 6 months, I was the head of that group. Um, Another 6 months, and I was the head of the state group. I inspired people to write. People would say, "Well, I can't write." And I'd say, "Baloney." So I would, on top of the tables, I would create all kinds of scenes, bring in the barbed wire, bring in the cans, stack them on the tables. And I'd say, "Write what you see." And I got almost everyone either writing something and selling it, or get, getting their work published. And it just is such a satisfying feeling to inspire others and do it myself. This is really great. Um, and then I discovered metaphysics, and I discovered Edgar Casey, and I discovered wow, the, that there's a whole new way of looking at the world, and there's a whole new way of living in the world, and I can do that. So I started writing, and it's sold big time to newspapers. Wow, big time to newspapers. And I was getting awards,
Hmm.
and the Idaho Department of Commerce and Development, their their chief writer called me up and said, "How would you like to work for us?" Oh, sure, love it, love it. So I did, and and it was just so much fun. This one, I had my own office, and the one day, I was given this assignment right about Grand Targhee Ski Resort. And that's on the border between Montana and Idaho, up in the high Rockies. And I'd never been there, and no way to be there. So I said to the secretary, "I'm closing my door. I don't want anybody to call. Nobody come in." So I sat down at my desk, and I just went there. I was just there. And I walked all over Grand Targhee, and the street signs, smelled the place, walked around, came back, and took all of my experience and typed it up, and that became my background, my material. That 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 I was able to write this great article on Grand Targhee Ski Resort. And the coup de grace was when the owner, it was published in Incredible Idaho magazine, and the owner, when he saw that, he said, "Yeah, this is just fantastic. Nobody has been able to write about our ski resort like your writer did." He said, "The next time she comes up, I want her to know it's on the house." And when they told that to me, I wanted to say, "Well, should I bring my body next time?" It was just so fun. And then I decided, why don't we do this and introduce this to everybody?
Now, this is mind-blowing to me because did you just like because of your ability, what I would define as sensory perception, you all of a sudden with this insight and how you looked at reality, with this insight with how things are colorful and everything, you just literally sat down and went, "I'm there."
Yeah.
It's when I hear this from you, so many people would be like, "What happened to the lotus position, the three incense, calling in your angels, doing all this stuff?"
Phony, phony baloney. All you
Because
have
it,
to do is be who you really are and take some good breaths, and you're there.
and you see that to me is so profound because that's sort of like how I was trained into this. That's how I was trained into this state of consciousness, you know. But it's palpable, right? So what you're experiencing is you feel and experience the event,
I'm there.
correct?
I'm
Right.
literally
Yeah.
there
Yeah. Yeah.
in all ways. I'm there. It's not a matter of my body's over here.
Mhm.
I'm there. All of me is there.
Now, do you have your eyes open or do you have your eyes closed?
I'm not conscious of my eyes.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm not conscious of anything.
Of this. You're not
Yeah,
conscious of this. Yeah.
I am there. whoever I am is there. All of me is there.
Oh, I
It's
completely appreciate it. I can uh, that's profound.
and so we started an education group, a bunch of us, and then I just I uh, I was inspired then to open this up for the entire city of Boise and anybody who wanted to come. Um, I attended, first of all, an entire weekend. Actually, it was 3 days where we all brought our cots and our pillows, and we learned how to do outer body traveling.
Mm. So there
And
is a few
so
techniques.
we did that, and there was a psychic there, and she would tell you um, th- uh, um, uh, whether you were halfway out of your body, partially out of your body, or all of you left your body, and we had this wonderful way of arranging things whereby we would have to go to a certain house at a certain time, and then we would we would we would look around and see if anybody's there and what they're doing, and see colors in furniture, and you know and then we would write it up, everything we saw, and then the person in charge of this workshop then would call the people on the telephone and say, um, you know, describe everything. And we'd find out who could see everything. You see part of it? Did you see part of it? Whatever. And we got our grades. And I thought this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. You find out instantly whether or not you're accurate. And are you able to do this? And after that, I went bonkers. And I thought, this should be available, this training, to anybody who wants to do it. So I did some stage work with the head trainer. Um, and taking people into past lives, all this kind of thing. And I said, okay, we're going to start Idaho's first nonprofit metaphysical corporation by the name of Inner Forum. And we're training like and having mediums come in and psychics come in and different kind of people. Brad Steiger, he sent his assistant. He came. We brought in speakers. First of all, first thing I did, I visited all the major churches in the area, sat down with a minister and said, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. And if you have any problems with this, let me know now. So we certainly made certain that all the major churches and everybody in Boise knew who we were and what we were doing. And we easily easily worked with over 3,000 people, trained a lot of people, had a lot of fun, and it just came to a time after 7 years when I felt like I'd done enough. Yeah, pass it on to other people. It's time for me to do something different. So, I decided to become a bank manager. I did.
Okay.
I did. I did. So I'm involved in bank management school, and I was just learning how to use a drafting table and be able to draw a screw. You know a screw, and exactly what a screw looked like, and a bolt, and all these kinds of equipment. And I loved it. I loved it. I was in the um I forget what department in Boise State College. Um I was in this analytical department, and I was just loving it. This is wow. I can draw a screw. Woo! And I can draw, you know, I can do it exactly right. Exactly. Shade of the pencil, everything is perfect. And um, and we had meetings in our house, in my house, where people who missed me from uniform wanted to come. And my husband decided to leave. Don't know why. But he left. And I was there with the 3 children. And I was learning how to be a banker. And I was working in a bank too. I was drawing forms. And I was loving it. And this guy came, and he was very upset. And my daughter said, I was asleep at the time because the next day I was taking this big test at school, and he was crazy. So I said, well, we've got a couple of empty beds in the house. Why don't you pick one and sleep it off? And in the morning you can leave. So he did just that, and I went to my bed, and I went right to sleep. I can sleep like that. You know, I'm a cop's kid. I was raised in a police station. And we had this field just outside of Twin Falls, Idaho, where the cops would use use to practice, and it was outside of my bedroom window. I never heard a single shot. I thought my dad was lying to me. You know, never heard a single shot. So I went to my bedroom, went right to sleep as I normally do. And he chose my bedroom, and he raped me. And yeah. And I became pregnant, and I miscarried, and that's when I died. January 2, 1977, January 4, 1977, March 29, 1977, three times in 3 months. And everything I knew, everything gone. Took everything, gone. Had to relearn how to crawl, how to stand, how to walk, how to tell the difference between left and right. Had to relearn who I was, who my children were, how to be a human being. Ah, and among the things that saved me was 2 books: The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, Dune by Frank Herbert. And I became all of the people in the books. I became them. And in doing so, I found myself. And in the Dune book, it's, you have the witches, and I sort of wrote my own, and I give it to you now. Fear is the mind killer. It is the little death. I will face my fear. It will pass over me, around me, and when it is gone, I will remain. And it's that litany that saved me and helped me to be a human being again. And there was all kinds of things I faced in learning how to be a human being again. And among them, uh, and having to learn how to crawl and walk and all that kind of stuff. And went through all of that again, and then the fall of the year must have been around November, maybe 4, 5, in Seattle, Washington. They had the Mind Miraculous Symposium, and my friends decided that and my doctor too, what I needed was a change of venue. So my doctor got up at 5:30 in the morning. Can you imagine a doctor getting up at 5:30 in the morning to give me a shot? And, a bunch of medicine. And they trucked me up to Seattle, Washington, and yeah, in the big, huge stadium that they had up there, or it's in the Space Needle below that, I think, whatever, and speakers like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and Uri Geller, and all. And I took all of my medicine, and we got in there on the ground floor, and I'm sitting on the aisle, and everybody else is sitting here, and the first speaker was a physicist from Stanford. And his theory, his knowing, his truth was what he called that everything happens at the same time in the same place, the eternal now. And he felt he could prove through physics that there is an eternal now, that everything happens now. And there on that huge, giant screen was exactly what I saw in my third near-death experience. And I jumped up and I ran out. I collapsed under a wall sconce, and I was just rocking back and forth. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. He saw it too. I'm not crazy. And from that moment on, I got well. And the next year, uh, I quit my job at the bank. I worked at a bank. I was in the analytical department. And that Monday morning, I was supposed to go in to my boss and receive a title. That was a big thing for women then. I could have a bank title. So I went in and I said to her, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to chase rainbows. And she just said, don't say another word. Sit down. I have a story to tell you. That moment at 4 a.m, she had been awakened by a dream. And she told her husband, so she would have a witness. And in that dream, she saw me say to her, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to chase rainbows. I pounded on her desk and said, that's not fair. You knew before I did. But it took me about a month to sell everything. The kids decided to live elsewhere. Stored everything I had. Got in my little Ford Pinto and walked out on my life. And I went around the world, the United States, fulfilling all my childhood dreams and wishes, going first to the Pacific coast and watching the sun set silver over the Pacific, meandered across the United States, and wound up in Falls Church, Virginia, and then witnessed the sunrise golden over the Atlantic. I was to live in Falls Church, Virginia. I never heard of Falls Church, Virginia. What's a Falls Church, Virginia? And then Carter was president then. And I went to the employment agency. I had a good resume. They would send me around for a job. First place I went, the Atlantic. Well, this particular industries foundation, and I just knew I was going to work there, and I went up the stairs to this place, and I was going to walk in the door to be interviewed. And I was just standing at the door, and I saw myself already there. I was walking around, and I had these files, and I was putting things in and out of the file drawers. And I thought to myself, well, obviously I'm going to work here. This is my place. And then the guy called me, and I went in and had my interview. And I went out, and I thought, well, there's no place going anywhere else because I know I'm going to be here. So I went to the DuPont Circle, and there's a little bit of a lawn there, and I just laid down and put my purse here and my hand over the purse and went to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I finally woke up and thought, okay, I better call the employment agency. And they were just having a fit because they were trying to get a hold of me. I got the job. Well, I knew I did. And so I just called and said, okay, I'll see you at 9 in the morning. And I did. I was there at 9 in the morning. And it was just fantastic working in Washington, D.C. I loved the architecture. And I was going around, taking photographs of angles and the architecture. And the Air and Space Museum. Oh, did I love that place. And this one time, they were going to present. They had a special physicist come down from, I don't know, some place north, and he was going to give a talk about the special topic. And I just knew I had to be there. So my bosses were able to I just got rid of all of my coffee breaks and my lunch hours so that I could earn the time that I could leave early on this special day and zip through Washington, D.C., go to the Air and Space Museum. And I was the last person in before they shut the doors and locked them. And this guy started talking about oh, let's see what it was. Something about yeah, what is it? What's it all about? And I watched him, and everything he said was acted out above his head. It's like the totality of existence, and it was all acted out above his head. And when I left, and I was staying with had this lovely apartment with this lovely lady, older lady. She was the last one. She and her daughter were the last ones out of Germany before Hitler shut down the airports. And no one could leave. They were the last ones out. And in my little apartment in her home, I collapsed against the wall. I was bucked up against the wall and in fear, total fear. How could I take care of myself, pay my bills, when I don't understand little things like doing secretarial work? When I understood fully the secrets of the universe. And I was just horrified. I was horrified. And I just was in fear. And I was like that way for several days. All kinds of funny things started happening to me. I went to mail at the post office, and I was just wearing my dungies and crappy stuff. I was just going to go in there, and this guy and he said, "Oh, you're it. You're the one who's come to save us." Phony baloney. But, he thought I was great savior, and um he was going to be my agent and take me all over the world, and I was going to give these great talks. No, I'm not. Back to my apartment as quick as I could get there. Um, but yeah, I finally got in the mail this wonderful letter from from Diane Pike and Arlene Lawrence, good friends of mine, and they were going to be visiting in Roanoke, Virginia. I thought, oh, I'd be able to see Diane and Arlene again. So I arranged that weekend I could go to Roanoke, Virginia. And I was going to move there. I didn't have a job, didn't know nobody, but I was going to move there. So I made this poster with my photograph and everything about me and what I could do. And the the whole event was held at the Unity Church of Roanoke Valley. So I took my poster and I, tacked it to. They had a place, a bulletin board where you could do that. So I'm enjoying this wonderful time with Arlene and Diane. It's just wonderful. And some people looked at me and read everything and said, "You're going to stay with us." I was to pay, rent, but I could bring all my things down, store them, and I could stay with her. I could stay with them. Don and Nettie Rip. They were a retired couple, I think, from Michigan or somewhere up there. And one particular day, Sunday, I'd previously gotten a job. I was working for people who were dealing with telephones and switchboards before the mob bell divestiture. So I could work with them, and I could go around anywhere east of the Mississippi River. And they would fly me to all these different places, and I could train people how to use the new switchboards. And I was home this one particular Friday night where Don and Nettie felt I needed to go to church. They were having a speaker, and the speaker was going to be talking about Zen. And I loved Zen. So I just thought, oh, this is great. I'll go see this Friday night program on Zen. And I was home. I was able to go. And just enjoying that presentation on Zen. I was on the floor in the lotus position and first row, and in the back on a chair was Terry Atwater. And Don and Nettie, we didn't find out about it till a year later. They decided we would make the perfect couple. So They made sure that we met, and we did. And that was a Friday. On Sunday, I attended, as I usually do. And Terry was recording the session. And after it was over, we decided that, well, let's take a walk together. So we drove up like a reservoir high over Roanoke. And so we were walking through the forest, and we sat down on a log overlooking, the reservoir, which to us was a big lake. And he would sing all of his songs that he loved, and I would sing all of the songs I loved, and he would sing the Bee Gees, and I would sing Coming In on a Wing and a Prayer. I've been singing all the songs from World War II, and he's singing the Bee Gees. And it was a full moon, and the moon set, and it was dark. Well, kind of dark, a full moon. And Terry was panicking. She said, I don't know the way to get to our car. I said, no problem. I'll just make a ball, and we'll follow the ball. So I put together a sound ball just like this, built a sound ball and tossed it, and we just followed the sound. And it went through the forest and landed on top of Terry's car in the parking lot. And Terry was aghast. I said, no problem. Get used to this. This is the way it is. We married 6 weeks later. That was 44 years ago. Terry is much younger than I. He's in his 70s. I'm 86. And it's just been a fabulous marriage. This man is my angel. He's black, I'm white. Well, actually, he's brown and I'm speckled. It's wonderful. He's just wonderful. And our children, my children, adopted him without any problem. And Natalie, my oldest daughter, she was still on the West Coast, and she met him over the telephone. And she said to him, I don't care if you're pink with blue polka dots. Get my mother pregnant. I want a baby brother. And I thought, yeah, I raised my kids right. And I couldn't have any more children, so I had a hysterectomy. And what can I say about life? Having died 3 times and having to fight to get back. I mean, those were grueling times. They were difficult times. And just I'm so thankful to the people who helped me. I'm so thankful for that wonderful nature path who I believe saved my life. I am so thankful for Tolkien having written his book and Herbert having written his book. I'm so thankful. And in my 3rd near-death experience, March 29, 1977, I was told by what I call the voice like none other. Test, revelation. You are to do the research. 1 book for each death. number 1 was not named. Book number 2 was Future Memory. If you haven't read Future Memory, you need to. It's not a book. It's a labyrinth. And that voice showed me how to do it. When you start reading the book, that's the beginning of the labyrinth. And it is a real labyrinth. And the purpose of the book is to bring your brain up, your mind up to the next highest level possible for you to attain. That's the purpose of the book. The third one was a manual for developing humans. And again, I was shown how to write it. And any near-death experiencer, first thing you have to learn, you have to relearn how to speak and how to think. And this is what this book does for you. And it's full of all kinds of ways of living. It has thought forms drawings in it that I did. It's just a wonderful book. People forget that the first sound of God was Hugh. Hugh. H-U. We are all humans. A human is a child of God. We are co-creators with the Creator. This is why we're here. This is what we're to do, is to be who we are. We are co-creators with the Creator. And a manual for developing humans shows you exactly how to do it, and who you are, and what you are, including an acupressure facelift, which I do every morning, or almost every morning, and it shows you how to do it. Yeah. So I went off. I did after I died in 40. The very next year, I left Idaho, quit my job, left Idaho, and across the United States. And I knew my job was to research the near-death experience. I knew that was my job, that was what I was supposed to do. And the first place I talked about my experience was in a police station. This was a police station where they had a special room for the public, that anyone from the public could use it to do whatever. And then there's the police station. I thought, oh, this is so appropriate. I'm a cop's kid, and I'm talking. I'm talking at the police station. And so I talked about my experience, all the things that happened. And when I was through, a woman came up to me, and she said, there were stars in her eyes, and she said, I wish something like this would happen to me so that I could love God like you do. And just horror. I was filled with horror. I thought, I'm a researcher. I'm not an actress. I'm not here to entertain you. And I never talked about my own experience again for about another 30 more years. And all kinds of people came up and helped me do the research. And hey, folks, uh, my research base is nearly 5,000 adults and children. Some of my work is in Lancet Medical Journal. I've written a lot of papers. Yeah, I am a real researcher. And get it now. That voice came back last year. Spoke to me again in 1977 and in 19 in 2022 23. It would have been 23 last year. And it's 3:15 in the morning. And I'm to do another research project. And my answer was no! No way! But yeah, I am to seek out those people who, during their near-death experience or within a year afterward, saw an alien or somehow were affected by an alien. Again, near-death experiencers, only near-death experiencers, who during their experience or within 1 year afterward, not 4 or 5 years or 10 years, within 1 year afterward, experienced an alien.
Yeah. Now,
And so I'm working on that now.
so is what's the directive specifically for 1 year?
I have no idea.
I love it. I love it.
No idea. The book has sold. It's not even written yet. I'm still doing the research. The book is sold to Inner Traditions. It is called Aliens and the Near-Death Experience.
Now,
because what I never told anybody except my husband. Well, yeah, I told a few people, but they have since passed on. And this is hard to do. This is hard to tell you. You're the first person. After my near-death experience was over, I was laying on a sofa. That's what the doctor said I had to do, lay on a sofa and just watch television. Well, I never turned the TV set on because across my chest was a bridge. And all of the past lives I've ever lived were on that bridge. And it ended with me being an alien. What do you do with that? Well, it finally came through. It talked. It talked to me. Very joyous being. What can I say? It's not like us at all.
It doesn't look like us. I mean,
At all.
when I look at your aura, I see a completely different like
It, it,
image.
it's like a lizard type being. It came from a water star that um, that exploded in the Sirius system. There was a huge ship after ship after ship that were able to leave. And I was in one of the ships and came here to the United States, or came here to Earth. And my story is there, will be there. And I would say to all of your readers and all of your people that are listening to this broadcast, please write Inner Traditions and thank them for publishing this book, Aliens and the Near-Death Experience, because they were kind of hesitant and then decided they would do it. Other publishers wouldn't touch it. Inner Traditions had the guts and the foresight to say yes. So please get a hold of Inner Traditions and say thank you for Aliens and the Near-Death Experience. I'm working on it now. I have to be done May 1. And yeah, I closed that door a long time ago. And in writing this book, I'll have to reopen that door. The book is divided into 3 parts. The first part, it's taking another look at the alien experience through Greta Woodrue, through Leo Sprinkle, through Uri Geller, and finally Kenneth Ring and his incredible book, Heading Toward Omega. Most of us have forgotten about that. Fantastic people. And the second part is actual experiencers. I have 31 so far. It'd be nice to have a little more. And the last part will be me. Really opening up about my memories. And the whole invitation, Aliens in the Near-Death Experience, is to help us realize how varied this universe is and how incredibly wonderful it is. To be alive and to explore and to dream and to love. And just breathe. And to you, I give my special blessing because I've never talked about this to anyone. You're the first.
It's I can't put it into words. I mean, I've been experiencing the metaphysical connection for over 30 years with my own connection with my guides or higher states of consciousness. And for some strange reason, in 30 years, I've seen everything except specific aliens. And in the last 2 months, I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, and they keep coming up in people's auric fields, and they're very present in their connection, which was never I've never experienced that before. So I am blown away by your admission and sharing that with myself and my audience, and I'm very grateful because they're very real.
We are very real.
Hmm.
Who we are.
Yeah.
Get beyond the idea that there are aliens. There is life. And alive is who we are.
Wow. It's just it's so profound. I mean, the things that you shared so far today are things that people aspire to or have an idea of how they may be able to get there or even create it per se. But actually, I resonate 1000% with all the things that you're speaking of because I experience them in my everyday life. I have since I reconnected with the truth of who I am for many decades, and it's so profound to be able to share and embrace this, and I just call it consciousness. I mean, I'm not sure what you call it, but it's a conscious state, and then I sort of refine things more as a sensory perception of reality. You know, that's how I've come to coin it.
Be
But
who you are.
mm,
That's enough.
well, yes, I would say yes for you and I, but there's a childlike state that you understand on a face value because how I attribute my abilities to access what I do is accepting everything as it stands at face value. Be childlike in my nature and realizing what is present is the only thing. And that moment creates this access. And so all of a sudden, everything becomes tangible. Everything is vivid. We're speaking right now. I'm actually sitting in the universe. I'm not, you may see a backdrop behind me, but I'm experiencing constellations, the sun. I'm moving through the space. I'm moving through the universe, and all this is being simulated through my physical body, and I can feel it. I can see it. It's vivid, like we're sitting here talking to each other. And until you mentioned that, when you sat down and you said, "I went straight there," the first story that you had about where you had been able to, and I mean most people would attempt to aspire to this idea of remote viewing, put a title on it, create some sort of system behind it. But it truly is when you access that, there's a level of awareness that comes through you, and you're present. That you're present. You're right there. Wherever you want to go, anywhere in this universe, anywhere in anything, whatever your imagination can create, it can be realized. That's what I've recognized over the years.
We are co-creators with the Creator. That's who we are. Enough said.
Well, for it is it's really profound. Yet I want you to share with the audience how do they acquire this state? Because I know how I get there. I teach people this stuff,
Get a
but
manual.
how do you get there? What?
Get a manual for developing humans.
Right. Right.
And right now, I need to leave. So I give you all my blessings and my love. And just know that I have enjoyed being here.
Very grateful. Very grateful that you shared your time with us today, and I'm blown away. There's just so much that you've expressed in just this experience that I'm going to thoroughly enjoy immersing myself in over and over again, because the depth of it is really profound. Before you leave, I need to ask you one question. What's your definition of consciousness?
Aliveness.
Well, I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. I hope you enjoyed the time with PMH, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.